How do you diagnose the Riddler, one of the most eccentric and wacky crooks in Gotham? Well, that's quite a riddle in of itself, isn't it? But me, armchair psychiatrist Mr. Rogues, am gonna do my best to crack that mystery. So, in order to diagnose the Riddler, we first gotta pick a Riddler, because the diagnosis entirely depends on whether his riddling habit is voluntary or compulsive. You see, there's really two schools of Riddler. We have a Riddler who leaves riddles to get attention, and we have one that leaves riddles because he has to. He's compelled to. With such an old character with so many appearances, there's naturally some deviations to this form, but these two are the primary takes that we see. Now in this video I'm gonna be talking about both versions, so you're getting two diagnoses for the price of one here. First, let's start with the easier one, the Riddler who riddles on purpose. This Riddler is all about getting attention. He's not like a regular thief who wants to remain anonymous. He wants everyone to know that he committed a crime. Not only that, he also gives Batman a chance to stop him, all in the hopes that Batman will fail to stop him, thus proving that he is more clever. He managed to evade capture even though he gave Batman a freaking clue. This Edward wants everyone to go, oh boy, that Riddler sure is smart. He desperately craves admiration and attention because he feels he's entitled to it. He's special, he's superior to all the peons of society. And what does this sound like? Why, good old narcissistic personality disorder. That is naturally what this version of the Riddler suffers from. The classic symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, are a sense of superiority, a need for attention, a desire for praise and admiration, always wanting to be the center of attention, and lacking the ability to feel empathy for other people. That's Riddler, all right. There are different types of narcissists, the two main types being the grandiose narcissist and the vulnerable narcissist. I believe that the Riddler falls in the grandiose camp. A vulnerable narcissist actually suffers from a deep sense of inferiority. They do feel entitled and crave admiration and attention, but also feel worthless and often seriously doubt their self-perceived greatness. A grandiose narcissist doesn't have this self-doubt and self-hatred. They truly do love themselves and believe in their own hype, at least most of the time. They are more confident and charismatic than the vulnerable type. A vulnerable narcissist would probably be too neurotic to be able to pull off a scheme like Riddler's anyway. A narcissistic person is also very bad at handling criticism and will not take kindly to being proven wrong. It's all about keeping up that pretense of brilliance after all. That sounds like the Riddler to a T. He usually doesn't react very well whenever he gets bested by Batman. He'll either go into a fit of rage or have a complete mental breakdown. His whole worldview in which he is superior gets shattered. Something that simply is not acceptable to a grandiose narcissist. It's always somebody else's fault. Batman cheated, that's how he won. Or he made a riddle too easy, even an idiot could have solved it. A grandiose narcissist will never admit they were at fault. Not feeling any empathy is also obviously something that applies to the Riddler. Otherwise, he wouldn't be capable of putting all those innocent people in those various saw-like death traps. The Riddler indiscriminately uses people like props in his schemes, without any regard for their well-being. He doesn't go out of his way to kill people, but if it serves his little game, he most certainly will not hesitate. So clearly he doesn't feel very much for his fellow man. Now, NPD doesn't necessarily make you prone to criminal behavior, and most people with NPD live fairly normal lives. Well, law-abiding lives at least. However, that doesn't exclude choosing a life of crime. They're definitely more inclined to act in immoral ways, considering their lack of empathy and self-centered thinking. But if you so wish, you could tack on antisocial personality disorder to that diagnosis of NPD. So that covers the attention-seeking Riddler. What about the other one, the version of Riddler who doesn't leave clues because he wants to, but because he has to? This one is a bit trickier. This Riddler has a compulsion. He doesn't really want to leave a riddle for Batman, he just can't help himself. So now we're dealing with an entirely different beast. It's not a Riddler acting out of arrogance, thinking Batman is too dumb to crack his ciphers. It's a completely different motivation. So therefore, narcissistic personality disorder doesn't necessarily fit. But what does fit? Well, there's obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, but if he has that, then it's manifested itself in a pretty weird way. You see, people with OCD will get alarming or disturbing thoughts that won't go away until they perform some repetitive ritual. Like, for instance, thinking your family will die unless you flick a light switch 20 times. That's a classic one. People with OCD realize how absurd that is and understand that it makes no sense that their family would die just because they don't flick a light switch, yet they still have to do it. Because they feel compelled to. The awful thought won't go away unless they do. Well, I mean, that sort of fits the Riddler. He's compelled to leave the riddle and can't even pull off the crime if he doesn't. But there's no evidence in any story, as far as I know of, that he would be suffering from any kind of intrusive thoughts. Of course, we're dealing with a fictional comic book character here, so naturally he won't fit any diagnosis 100%. Comic book writers aren't psychiatrists, nor do they pretend to be. At best, we can say that this version of Riddler has some kind of fictionalized type of OCD, one that's forcing him to do things he doesn't want to do. Could it also be forcing him to commit the crimes in the first place? That's quite possible. Of course, in real life, people with OCD have no more risk of falling into a life of crime than anyone else. It's not that kind of disorder. But if you want to play it safe, we can yet again tack on antisocial personality disorder to the diagnosis. That would explain his violent and criminal behavior. So, antisocial personality disorder with OCD. That's really the closest we're gonna get, I think. Like I said, this one is a bit trickier and kinda hard to try to explain scientifically. Now, there are of course tons of other takes on the Riddler out there, but I only concern myself with the two main types we usually see. Like, for instance, Jim Carrey's Riddler from Batman Forever is an entirely unique version where he's motivated by a creepy obsession with Bruce Wayne. What mental disorder could that Riddler have? Well, definitely something. Anyway, if you feel my diagnosis of the two main Riddlers is incorrect, let me know down in the comments and post what you think he has. And I'll see you in the asylum again some other time.